What up, world? Robert Jordan Hunt here, and welcome back to Bruno-Vision, a deep dive into the career of Bruce Willis by yours truly. In the last episode, I introduced you to the earliest aspects of Ol Bruno's career, and by the end we learned he had one hit television dramedy, one moderately successful romantic comedy, and one box office disaster. Honestly, that's really not a bad place to be, especially at the start of your career. I mean, Bruce was at the beginning of becoming Tinseltown's next big comedy star. And then Die Hard happened. It seems odd now that Die Hard was only Bruce's third movie and first as a leading action star. The dude just shows up so confidently on screen as John McClane, Detective Badass, that my brain just kind of tricks me into believing that he's been around forever, kicking butt, and not afraid to cry about it either. But, as we all know, that's just not true. And if you think about B-Dub's career up to this point, it just doesn't make sense that he got this movie. So how did that happen? Let's dig in. The script had been adapted by Jeb Stewart and Stephen E. D'Souza from the novel Nothing Lasts Forever, written by former police officer Roderick Thorpe. John McTiernan, fresh off the hit sci-fi flick Predator, had come on board to direct. When it came to finding the film's leading man, I can assure you, Bruce was nowhere close to ever being considered. The studio, 20th Century Fox, really believed they had a hit on their hands with the right star. So, naturally, they sent it to every big action star of the era. I'm talking Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford, Burt Reynolds, and even Richard Gere. And granted, Gere wasn't exactly an action star, but he was a big star and a box office draw. Anyways, it didn't matter because, surprisingly, every single actor passed. It's important to remember that prior to Die Hard's release, 80s action movies were filled with machismo and heroes seemingly cut from stone. These characters were seemingly invincible killing machines with the brawn to back it up. They rarely got hurt, never missed a shot, and wouldn't dare show any sign of vulnerability. So basically, the exact opposite of John McClane. On paper, they thought he sounded like a wimp. He constantly gets the crap beat out of him. He hides most of the movie, and then by the end, he's just crying about his wife. No, thank you, said the major actors of Hollywood collectively. This put the studio in a tough spot. They were just turned down by every major actor in Hollywood, and they were desperate. At this point, any recognizable name would do. Enter Bruce Willis. Fox took note that the actor had at least had one small hit with Blind Date, and this was before Sunset came out, mind you, and the filmmakers couldn't help but notice that his everyman sensibility, which he was displaying weekly on Moonlighting, was a perfect fit for the character. Hooray, said the studio, thinking that they had not only solved their leading man problem, but they were going to solve money doing it too by hiring a TV actor. Now, here's where things get a little spicy. Willis's agent, Arnold Rifkin, knowing the studio was desperate, was eventually able to leverage them into giving Willis a $5 million payday, a massive sum at the time that, generally speaking, went to more established stars like Warren Beatty or Dustin Hoffman. This news shook La La Land to its core, with the tabloids and general public balking at the sum for someone known mostly then as a TV star. Yuck. Even with the backlash, the studio stood behind its decision to cast Willis. Instead, they kind of limited his presence in the posters and trailers and just let the action do the talking. So did it work? Well, kind of. The film, which had a $28 million budget, opened number 3 in its first week of wide release behind Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Coming to America in July of 1988. That is honestly not a bad sum at the time, especially considering Willis's limited appeal in that genre. Then a funny thing happened. Turns out, audiences and critics alike were blown away by this movie. Duh, right? But especially by Ol Bruno's performance. Never before had they seen an action hero be so vulnerable and relatable while also being so fun to watch. Bruce Willis, rising comedy star, had completely changed how the audience views an action hero in one fell swoop. The movie eventually grossed $83 million domestically and $140 million worldwide. It even spawned like its own subgenre of action films, like Die Hard on a bus, Die Hard on a plane, Die Hard on a ship. And, it seemingly propelled Willis to superstardom overnight and had every major studio offering him every major action script. And let me tell you, Fox was ready to back up a dump truck full of money on his lawn again to get Die Hard 2 going ASAP. So, of course, he chooses to play a Vietnam vet dealing with the shadow of war as his next gig. Wouldn't you? It's decisions like this that fascinate me about Willis. The dude just had his career blow up in ways that any actor would dream of, and instead of immediately cashing in, he decides to go act his butt off in the film In Country, directed by Norman Jewison. What a king. Folks, thanks so much for watching. Please remember, rate, review, subscribe. It helps. And tune in next time to when we dig into In Country and we find out if this out of left field choice works out for Willis or not. So until next time, bye.